1 year later, I find myself in my cramped apartment, endlessly scrolling through Tinder, caught in a seemingly unbreakable cycle. It's tiring. Same empty conversations. The same guys who disappear without a trace, and the same sinking awareness that perhaps this is my new normal. Just then, Taylor burst through the door, a bottle of pricey wine in hand. Not the cheap stuff in the corner store, but a sophisticated choice that likely costs more than my monthly electric bill. She collapses onto my couch, glances at my phone, and raises an eyebrow. "Still searching?" she asks, nodding toward the screen. The implication is clear. We both know exactly what I'm doing. "Just browsing," I reply with a forced chuckle, but we both understand that's a blatant falsehood. Despite the countless guys I chat with, the first dates, the late-night texts, and the feigned flirtations, none of them seem to take me seriously. And I know exactly why. A year ago, I made a thoughtless joke that changed the course of my life. I had laughed and said, "Oh, please, I had my 304 phase before marriage, who didn't?" My husband overheard me. He didn't shout or argue. He simply walked away. Now he's gone, and I'm left swimming in a sea of regret, realizing far too late that some things aren't meant to be joked about. Before everything fell apart, my life was picture perfect. I had Kyle, the type of man many women dream of. Faithful, diligent, reliable. He always made sure I got home safely, opened doors for me, and remembered my coffee order without needing to be reminded. We met in our late 20s when we were both ready to embark on the journey of marriage. Kyle wasn't the flashiest guy in a room, but he was solid, and after years of dating men who were only after fleeting fun, that stability felt like everything. So when he proposed, I said yes without a second thought. We married and settled into a comfortable routine. Everything secure until that fateful joke changed everything. It happened during a casual dinner party with friends. We were laughing, sipping wine, and reminiscing about college dating, bad dates, casual flings, wild nights. Someone made a comment about how people change before and after marriage, and without a second of consideration, I blurted out my line. The moment the words left my mouth, I felt the atmosphere shift. Some guys chuckled, some girls giggled uncomfortably, but Kyle froze, his fork suspended mid-bite, his jaw clenched tightly. I attempted to downplay it, nudging him playfully and saying, "Oh, come on, babe. You know I'm just joking." But he didn't smile. He simply set his fork down and uttered 2 words that sent a chill through me. "Got it." In that instant, I realized I had made a monumental blunder. From that night forward, everything changed. Kyle didn't yell or argue. He just stopped trying. He stopped initiating texts, ceased calling me babe, and stopped looking at me with the warmth that used to define our relationship. Initially, I thought he was just sulking and would eventually come around, but as days turned into weeks, it became painfully clear that he wasn't angry. He was finished. The small gestures I had once taken for granted, the morning kisses, the random, just thinking of you texts, the tenderness in his voice when he said my name, vanished. One night, as I tried to snuggle close to him in bed, he didn't respond, didn't turn to hold me, didn't even acknowledge my presence. That was the moment I realized I was losing him, and I was utterly clueless about how to stop it. Weeks later, I returned home to find Kyle sitting at the kitchen table, his demeanor eerily calm. "We need to talk," he said, his voice steady, sending a wave of dread through me. "Kyle, come on. You're still mad about that silly joke." I attempted to laugh it off, but he shook his head, his expression unreadable. "It wasn't just a joke, Riley. It was what it implied." "What does that even mean?" I frowned, confusion swirling in my mind. He leaned forward, fixing his gaze on me as if seeing me for the first time. "I thought I knew the kind of woman you were, the kind of wife I married, but that night made me realize I was mistaken." My heart sank. "Kyle, stop. You're overreacting." I snapped, but he continued, his voice unwavering. "I don't care about your past. What matters is that you made a joke that made our life, our marriage, seem like plan B, like I was just a guy you settled for. And you laughed." I opened my mouth to protest, but he shook his head, cutting me off. "I deserve someone who respects me, Riley, and I don't believe that's you anymore." Then he stood up, grabbed his bag, and walked out the door. No shouting, no second chances, just gone. In that moment, I understood the gravity of my actions. I had pushed too far, and now it was far too late to take it back. Initially, I convinced myself everything would be okay. Kyle was just being overly sensitive. He'd cool off, realize he was overreacting, and return to me. And if he didn't, I convinced myself I could find someone better. After all, I was still young, attractive, and fun. Men were drawn to me. I jumped headfirst into dating apps, and at first, the attention felt exhilarating. The messages, the flirty exchanges, the rush of validation. It was intoxicating. But soon, a troubling pattern emerged. The men I matched with weren't looking for serious relationships, didn't take me seriously. They treated me the same way I had treated Kyle, like I was easily replaceable. That realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't wife material to them. I was just another option. The one man who had ever seen me, as more was already lost to me. Weeks turned into months, and Kyle never returned. No late-night texts, no "I miss you" messages, nothing. Then one day, while running errands, I saw him again. At first, I barely registered his presence until I heard that familiar laugh. I turned to see Kyle, but he wasn't alone. He was smiling and laughing with another woman, stunning and effortlessly confident, the kind of woman who didn't need to make cheap jokes for attention. The way he looked at her was how he once gazed at me, and my stomach twisted as I watched him open the door for her, placing his hand gently on the small of her back. Those little things I had once taken for granted. Most painfully, he appeared genuinely happy, happier than he had ever been with me. I wanted to believe he was still hurting, wishing things had turned out differently, but he had clearly moved on. Meanwhile, I was stuck, chasing something I could never reclaim, endlessly swiping through meaningless profiles, longing for someone to see me as Kyle once did. Deep down, I recognized a painful truth. I had lost the only man who ever truly loved me. I don't get a fairy tale ending or a second chance. Kyle is gone, not just from our home or our marriage, but from my life entirely. And the hardest part? He's undoubtedly better off without me. I thought I was being witty, proving that I was still desirable and exciting, but all I did was demonstrate that I wasn't the kind of woman he could trust. Real men don't fight for a woman who doesn't respect them. They don't plead to be seen as enough, nor do they stick around to be humiliated again. They simply leave. And once they do, they rarely look back. If you're hearing this, don't make the same mistake I did. Because when you turn a good man into a punchline, the only one left laughing is you. Goodbye.